Yo, it's ODB. In this video, I'm going to change out the ignition switch in my 90 Mazda. I have watched a couple videos and I'm going to link to those as well in the description. But this video, I think, is a little bit more in depth based upon a couple of the other videos I saw. Jeff's from Mini Garage was great because that actually helped me. You'll see that here in just a moment as we get through this video. But there's a lady that changed hers and she just did the actual switch, the wiring piece, but I really couldn't find where you can just buy that. So you have to take the shear bolts off, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So it's not too bad. It seems a little worse than it actually is. So let's get right into it. All right, so I'm changing the ignition in the Mazda. I ordered this yesterday on Amazon for roughly $23. Free shipping with Prime. Got it today, which is a Sunday before 9 a.m. it arrived. And there is one video on YouTube, I'll link to it in the description, of a girl that changed this out about 4 years prior to this, so probably 2020. And she took a lot of stuff out. There was a comment on there that you don't have to take out that much stuff. What I started with is basically just taking the few screws out. There's a couple screws for these panels that, you know, this is the top piece and then this is the bottom piece. The screws are down here. There's a couple. And it's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to take those few out, and then the top piece around the column, the bottom piece, they'll separate. Make sure you get all the screws because I forgot this one and it kind of cracked a little bit, so I'm going to super glue the piece back. But basically now you have access to this is what you're changing. And what one of the individuals said is that you will be able to, taking this cluster out, and many of you know there's a couple of screws in here to take this out. It's pretty basic. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Mine only has 3. One screw's missing. And when you take this out, you should be able to pull the wires and connect these guys right here. Now at some point, one of the other benefits that I'm going to get, at some point someone must have had an alarm or something hooked up, because there were a few little hodgepodge things. This should go back and eliminate some of that. You know, these butt connectors, which will be nice. But my truck I always had to kind of, on the key, my buddy Joe would tell me, he goes, you know, sometimes on these Mazdas, you got to kind of lift up on this key a little bit as you turn it. And mine was always a little finicky. I'd have to click it a couple times. Well, recently, I thought the battery was bad. It was 3 years old. I got another battery, and the truck was doing the same thing. And I was like, you know what? Even if this isn't it, I knew it's time to change this thing. So I've had this apart one time. I'm going to get in here and kind of clean, you know, wipe all this stuff down when I get this swapped. I haven't taken the gauge cluster out before. I kind of tried when I was doing some other stuff. I rewired the cigarette lighter adapter recently, and I kind of had this stuff apart, and I didn't want to pull this all the way out at the time. I just didn't want to get into it. So now hopefully I'll be able to get all this out. Let's do it. As an example, I didn't take this off before, this piece here, but look, these are the treasures you find. So vacuum all that out, of course. I did pop this piece off over here just to kind of get this out of the way, where this is free and that's totally free to come out. I've seen a couple videos. The thing that I hate is trying to get this out far enough to get behind it. You're going to see there's not a lot of space. I'm going to have to use your kind of fingers probably. And what I found taking these out in the past is trying to kind of get any amount of wiggle room you can, like even coming through the side or kind of pulling these. But, you know, just being obviously careful. But it's just one of those things where it's kind of a pain. It can be a pain, especially the first time taking it out. So if you're used to kind of doing this stuff, you know, you got a little bit of wiggle room. And what I did is I kind of just pulled on this, my hands like this on each side. And that gives you the little bit of slack that you got. You can kind of see right there is the speedometer cable. So I'm gonna have to get my hand in here to get that undone. But once you pull on this a little bit, you're going to see that you're going to get a little bit of wiggle room back here. Again, it's not easy, but then look, you've got the space here now with your hand. You can kind of get in there. But if you're new to this kind of stuff, you just got to kind of get the feel for how much, you know, play you think you have in the wiring there. All right, what I did was I kind of got my hand back here and I wiggled this a little bit, and it's going to come undone from there. And then once you get the speedometer cable out, you've got way more room to pull this bad boy out, unclip these little harnesses, and then that's out of the way. And then you can get in here and do what you got to do. And just like that, it took me literally 5 seconds to unclip these 3 harnesses, 1, 2, 3 across. And then this bad boy is out. And then it's going to give you a couple opportunities. Number one, find some treasures. There's a dime. Let's see what year it's from. 1975. So you get a chance to clean all this stuff out, of course. But main thing is, someone commented on that gal's video that she did, and he said, hey, you know, you can get all this stuff out. And I think basically when you're kind of pulling on this, looks like it all comes in right here. And usually what I do is I'll get in here and wiggle the wires around a little bit and kind of figure out exactly where I'm working with. But it looks like everything's going to plug right here. So it'll be simple, hopefully. And hopefully this will resolve the issue. All right, one thing that I noticed, and I haven't fully figured out what I'm going to do yet, is I just assumed you could unbolt this. And I don't think you can. I don't know if you'd have to drill these out. But the girl that did the swap on YouTube, her setup, and this is something I didn't anticipate, didn't come with the whole housing. And you can see here where this would just bolt in just like that, right? Your keys on the right side. You got your bolts there. The setup she had was just literally everything but the housing. So you would get this wiring piece that would slide in, and you would get, of course, your new keys and your actual switch. Of course, all the wiring's connected over there. The challenge I have is I'd rather just put this whole setup on. But you can see here, there's nothing to unbolt. It's like, I guess you would have to drill those out. And let's look underneath here. So the question then becomes, do I see if the local parts store just has the actual switch, like the girl on YouTube? That's one thing I like about watching other, you know, sometimes I go, hey, I shouldn't, you know, do a video because there's already a video out there, but each person does their video a little bit different, and each person runs into different challenges. So again, I bought this not really suspecting it to be tough. It was like, hey, just bolt this in. But clearly this doesn't just bolt out. So I don't know how crazy I want to get. I really don't want to go drilling this stuff out, because it's like, you know, trying to get a drill in here and stuff like that. If I could just get this piece, and what she did was hers, you know, once you take this out, I guess it's hollow, which I'll have to figure out how that comes out. But I thought, hey, I could just take this out, and that's a possibility as well. I don't know if this just screws off on this side. So let's see what I'm gonna do. All right, so update. I looked, local parts stores didn't have just this. One person commented in one of the Mazda groups and said, pro tip, just get this piece and then you don't have to, you know, you keep the original key, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't worried about that. But I forgot, I had watched a video a couple years ago from my buddy Jeff at Mini Garage. I'm gonna put that link in the description. And Jeff, I know I had seen this, but it was a while ago. he ends up taking a screwdriver, and they, at the year truck that they're in, they hit on this a little bit, and then they're able to take these out. I don't know if each year is a little bit different, because I might just have to get the drill and drill these out, which I'm not afraid to do. But I am going to tap on these a little bit, because they do look like, I don't know, maybe they're just pressed in. There is a little gap at the bottom. But at this point, I started to look at, you know, okay, I could keep this because it is different on the new one, this little wiring. I was like, well, if I just had this piece, then I would be good. But at this point, all I got to do is get these two guys off, bolt the new setup in. I already unplugged these guys up here. That was super simple, and just get it done. All right, in Jeff's video, he calls them shear bolts. They were able to put a screwdriver and tap, and they kind of loosened. I tried doing that here. I really couldn't get anything to happen. I also took a screwdriver in between there, just trying to see if I could get any leverage. I think what I'm going to do is just drill these out. Now, I'm going to see if this drill will work. I have a 90-degree drill that I bought a long time ago, and I barely ever use it. It doesn't have a lot of power. It's pretty good for like house stuff. But this may be a little bit easier if you have one, because, you know, you can get a little bit more in here. So I will see and let you guys know. Let's get it done. All right, so I lied. Here's what I ended up doing. I tried drilling on top of it, and it was just taking a while. And I said, you know what? Let me find something else. And I found this. This is obviously a home thing. But I wanted something like what Jeff did. This has a little bit of a bite on it. And I put this here, and I'm outside the truck. And I took my hammer and I tapped on that, and I'm getting it to spin. And it's actually spinning. So let me see if I can leave this here. I don't know if it's gonna work. Yeah, maybe it will. Let's see if I can get it. Got a magnetic case, but doesn't help here. But basically, tapping on it, it is spinning. So thanks again to Jeff. I can't tap and hold at the same time, but trust me, it's working. All right, I had to tap on this thing like 15 times to finally get it to where it was loose enough to twist by hand, but it will work. If you get something, if you got a pick or you have something that'll bite into it a little bit that you can tap on the end, that's gonna be your best bet. Like right now, it's not wanting to spin. I don't know if it's just because it's at a weird spot or it's hitting the outside, but I'll probably tap on it one more time. This one's a little bit more challenging because I think I tried a couple taps on it, trying to go this way, obviously, to loosen it. But, you know, this one you have a better angle, especially if you're like me, right-handed. This one, I think it's going to have to almost come in from this way to get it out. And that's one thing, you know, you may not realize, you're actually taking the entire bolt out. So what a pain. I saw other people comment on Jeff's video. Definitely a pain to do this, but it's not too horrible. And just like that, with that other tool I showed you and a screwdriver, this one was a little bit more difficult, but once I got it loose, I used a screwdriver to tap into it and just keep spinning it. I had put this one back in just to kind of hold it. I don't think I had to, but it's finally coming out. The other one looks original. I think the main thing is you do here when you put this bad boy back in, you've got that slit right there where this is gonna go. And you can kind of maybe, yeah, you'll kind of feel when it locks in there, you know it's in the right spot. All right, so be careful putting these on. What I did is I kind of got this one, what I thought was pretty tight, And now I know why they call them shear bolts, because they just shear off. You want to make sure you've got your socket pretty far down when you're tightening them, and just don't over tighten them until you're ready. When I sheared this one off a second ago, I was like, crap, it's not even tight. But it was tight enough that when I tighten this one, it's good to go. So be warned, that's why they call those shear bolts. I didn't know that. They do shear off. LOL. All right, the moment of truth. Is it gonna work? Got my new key. Perfecto. Now I do recommend starting it before you put it back together, and believe it or not, I actually did. So I started it before I kind of buttoned everything back up, and I also because I wanted to make sure I had everything plugged in correctly. I also then when I put the gauge cluster back in, I made sure all that stuff was lighting up, because again, you know, you've got your ribbons you're plugging in and things like that. Everything seemed to be working fine, the blinkers, everything. So I knew that was good. But honestly, it didn't take me that long. The hardest part was figuring out those shear bolts, and they make sense now, because when you put the new ones on, once you get them tightened, the top literally shears off. So not too bad in the grand scheme of things, and I'm glad I finally did it, because I knew that one was original. The truck always had a weird starting thing. Sometimes a 1, 2, 3 times, and it finally just gave out to the point that it wouldn't start. And I actually went and bought a new battery, because I thought the battery was 3 years old. I was like, you know what, let me get a new battery. Still was doing it. So I hope this helped you. Thanks to Jeff, thanks to the other lady that did the video, and I really appreciate you guys for watching all the way through. ODB, we out here.